Hello and welcome to Puzzled Parents, where we use our authentic voices to shed light on topics that may not see the light of day otherwise in the autism and special needs community. Today, I'm very excited to have a special guest with us today who not only is an amazing person in her own right, but was one of the authors who participated in my autism anthology, Daring to Belong Stories of Courage and Connection. Cheryl Pankhurst, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited and honored to be here, Susan.
Yes, ma'am. Well, you and I have been working together a lot this year, which is awesome. I'm so excited.
Me
Um,
too.
our book, I can't even believe it. It's been out a week and has reached bestseller status. So congratulations. I'm
And
excited
you
about
too.
that.
That's exciting. Yeah.
So I love your chapter in the book because you talked about, hey, if they could, they would. It's not that
Mhm.
they're not, they can't. So that really changes the perspective. Like, what made you kind of decide to take that lens?
I think a lot of it was being in the high school and really starting to understand how some teachers were viewing this if a kid had a meltdown, had some kind of dysregulation, and it was as if they were pushing their buttons or they're doing it on purpose or they want to get out of math or any of that. And I was taking a step back and no 16-year-old wants to do this. No 15-year-old wants to be the center of attention in that way. They want to be, and so many of the kids after a dysregulated event would be in my office crying because they just want to be normal. And
Yeah.
so, I
Quote
started talking
unquote,
to,
right?
yes,
Quote unquote
exactly.
normal.
Sorry. Yes, this is audio. Um, and yeah, and so it was something I was constantly talking to teachers and other parents who just didn't understand that if they could sit down and pay attention and get the work done and participate in social, they would, but they can't. So that's, the analogy. If they would walk, they would, but they can't, so they're in a wheelchair. It's so it feels basic because I've said it so many times, but I start to realize that, especially I find to other parents or grandparents who don't understand the diagnosis, and there's just nothing less helpful than hearing a judgmental person make commentary about these kind of dysregulated events without any kind of background and backstory. And instead of being helpful,
Mhm.
the judgment comment, this is not helpful. So I put the lens on tight. If they could, they would. If they can't, then we have to figure out what it is that's the barrier.
And one thing that I find profound is that these are the people that are supposed to be trained and supposed to know how to deal with this. We trust the school system. We trust that the teachers have the proper education and know what's going on. But just like in anything else, you're only as good as what you know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you haven't had the right experience or the right education, then it really is going to impact how you interact with those
Hmm.
students.
Yeah.
And I always said that as a therapist when I was out in the field for physical therapy, I'm only as good to you as what I know.
Hmm.
So the more I
Yeah,
know, the better, the more I can help you.
exactly. And I mean, we have some teachers or even, teachers assistant educational assistants who have come into the system 30 years ago and have
Right.
no idea. And I find a lot of this commentary comes from fear, and we're scared of what we don't know. But the trigger response of, your judgmental commentary without really knowing what's happening is not helpful. There's no blame there because 30 years ago, getting into teaching, nobody understood it. But
Yes.
and the system is not, you know, making it imperative that teachers get trained on what this is, and so we're relying on a special education skeleton staff type of thing to help educate our
Yeah.
teachers. So it's a vicious cycle. I mean, that, none of it is I don't think any teacher is intending to say discouraging
Right.
things at all. And I don't think other parents do. I think most people are good. Sometimes you just have to hear it differently and hopefully it
I
creates
know
some
I was,
awareness.
yeah, I know I was really shocked because when my daughter was starting in elementary school, I specifically facilitated that she got the teacher that had the special education background. And yet the school year was just a disaster. You know,
Oh,
she was crying under her desk all day long. They're telling me there's nothing wrong. It's all behavioral. They wouldn't let her repeat the grade because she wasn't where she was supposed to be educationally. And it just boggled my mind. And especially back then, not knowing what I know now, I 100% trusted them just completely.
yeah.
And we live, we learn. Obviously, looking back, I can see the challenges and how I may have handled that differently. But again, I was only as good as what I knew.
Yeah. And
And I
Mama
didn't
Bear,
know.
like
Yeah, yeah,
that's who we are. Like as
yeah.
parents, that's how we advocate for our kids, especially in the younger grades, for sure.
Well, and back then, learning that, hey, you need to advocate. That's a lesson in itself. The
Yeah.
fact that you cannot trust that they're going to do what's best for your child in that situation, that's a lesson in itself.
Hmm. Well, and I think sometimes I know when it comes to high school, there's always that sort of dichotomy where, oh, I want to advocate for my kid, but I don't want to make it worse. I don't
Yeah.
want the teachers to get mad at them or hate them. And I'm not sure where that actually comes from because I'm not privy to that in 25 years of teaching. Did I ever see evidence that, oh, mom tried to advocate and now I can't stand your kid? That doesn't happen. So I'm not sure where it came from, but I know that sometimes parents get a little bit nervous about speaking up. And I think if you are to do that, if as long as you take the right process, a lot of parents just get really angry. They
Yeah.
keep it all in for years and years, and then something happens in grade 8 or grade 9, and they go in like guns blazing to take. Sorry, I shouldn't have used that analogy. They go in like bulldogs, just taking down the whole school and going to the top instead of, okay, if something's happening, communicate with the teachers. Take your kid in and communicate with the teachers. Then if that doesn't work so well, you communicate with the vice principal. And then there's a process where
Yeah.
it's far more effective than waiting, 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 and then going with a list of wrongs into the superintendent. Like that's not helpful for anybody.
I agree with you. I think some of the challenge there, and I'm speaking just from my own experience mostly. For example, going back to the early elementary school years,
Mhm.
okay, I met with the teacher. She ended up punishing Kayla for doing the same thing that she and I agreed she would do because Kayla was not getting all of her homework done. But we were sitting down every night for hours, three or
Oh
four
my God.
hours, trying to do this homework. And the teacher says, no, that should only take her 30 minutes. I said, I'm telling you, it is taking us all evening to try to get this done. She said, okay, from now on, set a timer, do 30 minutes of focused work, draw a line, write a
Mhm.
note on it, and that'll be good. So I
Mhm.
started doing that. And then I found out later they were actually holding her from recess to finish her homework.
Oh no.
And I
Oh.
went into the meeting and I was like, does it sound to anyone else like they're punishing her for doing exactly what you told us to do in the first place?
Yeah, that's
That didn't make
crazy.
sense to me. You tell us to do this, we do it, and now she's not able to go to recess? I mean,
No.
come on.
Yeah, no, yeah, I didn't experience that in the high school, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Well,
not that it didn't exist,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And my story is kind of different than a lot of people because in the middle of third grade, I actually pulled her out and I homeschooled her for 7 years. I was a single mom while I was working full time.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
it was a different kind of challenge, but, that was kind of our journey. But let's focus a little bit now. I know that your focus of who you help and what your business and niche is has kind of shifted focus a little bit. And I want to
Hmm.
kind of give you a few moments to kind of talk to us about that.
Yeah, initially I was um, coaching moms in how to kind of navigate having a neurodivergent kid and like starting with them. It kind of starts with you, it's not the kid. But, the more it's funny is I think it was more getting towards the transitions, March break in my brain. I'm retired from teaching to do this for a couple of years, but you're a teacher brain forever. The seasons break, it just comes. And around this time, I would hear parents talking about the transition from grade 8 to grade 9 and how all the kids are excited, but their kid is petrified, and all the other parents like, yay, see you later, cut the cord. But, other parents are like nervously waiting for this transition to happen. And a lot of parents, they get this diagnosis from an assessment and it's 35 pages and they actually don't know what it says. It's in the terminology that is not accessible to everybody, and they don't know how to apply it at home. How do they apply it at school? What can they ask for? What should they ask for? Like all of those things. So I've just kind of switched over to more the consulting and advocacy because it's what I do, it's what I love to talk about. And I have a unique position in the sense that I was a high school teacher of small classes, special education classes. Then I became the special education head. And so worked very, very closely with administrators, worked very closely with superintendents of the board, and of course, parents and kids. And so it's like I sit on the top of the fence and I get to see everybody playing in the yard. And it makes a difference when you're going to advocate because there's a lot of bulldog advocates who don't know the system. And anyone who's an advocate who wants to stand up for somebody, great. I think that's great. But sometimes I think parents get fired up and sometimes advocates get fired up to go in and just this is what's going to happen and this is what and it's not effective when you're sitting at the table with a team. You want this team to be team kid. You want everyone on your kids' team. And some schools have some limitations and some administrators and board members have different views of way things go. And yet I'm like boots on the ground so I can see what happens. So it's better to sit at the table and be able to say, okay, you all have a voice. You all get to be heard. And how do we support this kid? And how do we do it together?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you go in angry like a lawyer or it just is, and I get it because you're mad, but there is a process that is far more helpful and it's more helpful for your kid. And
Mm-hmm.
then they can see how to advocate for themselves without having constantly to take the gloves off and go in fighting. So this is my jam. This is what I'm doing. I've kind of reprogrammed it to consult and a 3 month program where you can work with me where it's I have a diagnosis now. What the heck do I do? And we go through meeting once a week. I meet the kid. I talk to the teachers. I sit in on meetings. Like it's a whole, I have no idea what I do to complete empowerment and clarity at the end of it. So, and it's been fun. And of course, the
That's
podcast.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, your podcast is awesome. I was telling you earlier, you're such a good host. So check out Cheryl's podcast. Go ahead and give it a plug, Cheryl.
Parenting teens advice redefined for today's world, Wednesdays and Fridays.
There you go.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
So let's talk a little bit more about your experiences in the school system because I know that you had some kind of unique things that you did for your kids that really
Mm.
seemed to work well. Can you share those strategies and tips with our listeners?
Sure. And I mean, we can even start with the kids coming into grade 9. Like I said, there's, parents that are petrified and kids that are petrified. And typically you get one quick tour in June and then see you in September. And if you transition without a problem, that's fine. But transitioning with a challenge, it's not fine. And so there's different things you can do now to set up success, your kid for success. And one of them is have a safe person, find out from the high school who a safe person can be. So if you have somebody walk in the front door, your kid walks in the front door of the school and they're lost, or they're eating lunch in the hallway because they can't find the cafeteria, or they're missing an assignment, I always set somebody up in the school, an adult in the school, to be a safe person. And it could be an EA, it could be a guidance counselor, it doesn't matter. But that gives them something and someone to be very familiar with. And what I would do is ask permission to take pictures of that person, one picture, put it on the fridge, and your kid is seeing their face every day from April till September. So it's very familiar. You can also request to have their timetable printed off early, and that safe person takes them on the tour from the front door of the school. They go to the locker, practice the locker combinations, go class to class,
Right.
library, and you can do that multiple times. And now, I mean, my biggest fear in high school was getting lost, and I still remember it. It was a number of years ago, and I
Right.
still remember it. So, to have a safe person that has got your back, and this safe person would also be someone who connects with the teachers and just says, "Hey, I'm Johnny's buddy, and if Johnny's missing an assignment, let me know. If Johnny feels a little off today, let me know." And they would meet once a week and just talk about how the week went. And this way, if they're missing an assignment, how many kids work so hard on an assignment and sitting in their backpack? Or how many kids are
Yeah.
dying to join one of the teams, but their executive functioning skills are not there. And so they forget where to go and they don't end up signing up for something that they're just dying to do. And the only reason they want to go to high school. So by having a safe person dedicated to your kid, it eliminates a lot of these problems and the teachers know who to connect with. So I think that's one thing of a few things. I think that's definitely one of my most important tips. And don't
Right.
forget, you can just keep asking. It's not a one-way trip. You can keep requesting meetings, you can keep asking. And I would say at the very beginning of the year, you are so proactive with the teachers. You might not get the IEP right away because there's a transfer time from grade 8 to grade 9. And so,
Hmm.
instead of waiting till the end of October and saying, "What do you mean you haven't seen my kid's IP?" Take the IP with you. First, first day of school. To say, "This is my kid. You're going to get an updated one, but this is my kid." So they know right off the bat. They're already on the radar. And what kind
I'm
of
chuckling.
communication?
Yeah.
Hmm?
I'm chuckling just because, like, I kind of was that parent. I made a copy of the IEP for all her teachers before the
Perfect.
school year started. I
I
went
love
around,
it.
I took her around, and I met them all.
Yeah.
I had a paper in there like, these are my daughter's triggers, these are the things, here's my number, call me anytime. I gave one to the bus driver because my daughter had seizures, and I was like, here is my daughter, a little blurb about her. Here's my number. You call me anytime,
Yeah.
and for my daughter for her first day of high school. Now, it was a little different because we had a tornado that took out one of the elementary schools. For nobody was there. It was school was
Ooh.
not in, so nobody was hurt. But what they did, we had two middle schools, and so they put sixth and seventh grade in that building. In eighth grade, they set up these modular classrooms in the parking lot at the high school. So
Mm.
the eighth graders kind of had some classes in the modular buildings, and they actually had some classes that they took inside the high school as an eighth grader, and they ate lunch in there and things like that. So they
Mhm.
had a little bit of kind of a general-ish knowledge, but I actually took I printed out a map of the
Mhm.
floor of the high school, the the footprint of the high school, and I color codedly took highlighters and I like, okay, here's your first class. It's at 8 o'clock. It's in yellow. You walk in this door and you go to that room. Okay, well, next class is, green. We're going to go down this hallway and out in here to this one, And I color coded that and I
Perfect.
had like all the numbers, all the things done, and I laminated it because we know how kids are.
Yeah. I love it.
It
Yeah,
might
yeah,
not have
yeah.
made her better, but it made me feel better to know that she had it.
Yeah.
And she never got lost, not
Yeah.
once. And we actually walked the trail too, But because she had that base knowledge of the high school a little bit,
Mhm.
she was able to translate, the map
That's
to
really
the
good. Really good. I love that. Yeah. I mean,
so when you're like,
it's
be proactive, I'm
repetition,
like,
Good. Yeah. Gold star.
well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good.
Um, yeah, no, I love your idea of the safe person that we didn't have that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's an excellent way. And I know that you have told me in the past that, you would have kids stop by every morning to see you and you would say, okay, how are we doing today? Let's do our
Yeah.
check-in. And I
Yeah.
guess that was kind of your safe person students.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I always, even in the grade 8 meetings, I would establish myself as their first safe person and then had, secondary. But yeah, we would just do a quick 1 to 5. Number one was, hey, I had a great sleep. I had some breakfast. It was a good night. I'm good to go. And the day was on. And, 2 was, well, I didn't have a great sleep, but I think I'm okay. 3 might have been, I'm going to, we established this level as an individual, but 3 might have been, you know what, maybe I'll just work in the AR room, in the academic resource room, and just the teachers would just bring their work down. Yep, no problem. 4 was, I probably need to go home. And 5, as completely described, not by me, but one of my students, 5 miss means I'm batshit crazy, which means he's going, there's a meltdown happening. And so we never got to a 5 because we had the 1. So it was a quick check-in. And sometimes they would just pop in my office and give me a number and walk away. And, it just gave them accountability, which was excellent. And they learned how it felt in their body, what a 1 is and what a 3 is and what a 5 is.
Right.
And that's
And I
like
was just thinking
gold.
that.
Yeah.
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 Learning to recognize within yourself, that's a skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Learning to
And
recognize it and then learning to regulate that, that's another skill.
yeah. Yeah. Well, this one student said, I said to him at one point when he was at a level 1 or 2, I said, what does a 5 actually feel like? I wanted to know if he could describe it. And he said, it feels like a wall of flames right in front of my face. And I thought, oh, like it changed everything for me because I would throw a desk and run and scream and go for safety if I felt like I was envisioning this wall of flame in front of my face. And he could feel the heat and he could see the flame when it happened in this rage. And it just changed things forever for me in
Mm,
talking to these kids who were really had dysregulation challenges. It's like, oh my gosh. So that's when we established a really permanent check-in system. So we knew where we were. And I don't think I saw a 5 after that.
that's amazing. I love
Mm,
that.
yeah.
And wow, that's profound because that's without medication adjustments, that's without some of the other strategies. And I'm not knocking them because they
Of
are
course.
necessary and they're helpful tools for your toolbox.
Yeah.
But this is where if you've met one person with autism, you've met
Mhm.
one person with autism comes in. And so
Yeah.
what works for Johnny might not be what works for Sally, and, vice versa.
Hmm.
And for that particular child, the strategies that you were teaching and implementing really are what was going to work for them. And it seems
Hmm.
like part of that was the ownership and the value of, hey, this person, it wants to listen to me, not just
Hmm.
boss me around and tell me what to do,
Yeah.
but they want to hear my side of it. They want to
Yeah.
know me and what's going on. And I think that helps give them that less sense of helplessness or
Hmm.
I have no control or say over my life to really an
Yeah.
empowerment of people are going to listen to me and people are going to understand. And if I have somebody that knows what's going on, then I think I can handle it.
Yeah, yeah, and there's that, yeah. It's a care and a connection that has doesn't have a judgment. Like he, if he was, dysregulated, he could come in my office and he could shut the door and he could be very, very loud and use profane language and do it, but I knew it had nothing to do with me. And then he would be okay, So there was somewhere, otherwise he would have to go home. So it was just, this is when I'm stressed out, I need to go for a walk or I need to, do some exercise. That was his stress release. So who am I to say, no, that's not how you relieve stress here? That's not
Yeah.
helpful.
Well,
Yeah.
and thinking about more of a chain reaction related to that. I mean, the other side of that coin is the parent at home who's always waiting for the shoe to drop, waiting for that
Hmm.
call from the school, waiting to have to
Yeah.
go get their son again.
Yeah.
And the transformation that can occur in their life and with that
Hmm.
relationship. And in turn, that trickles out into their quality of life, which is going to trickle out into somebody else and somebody else. And so, like, the ripple just keeps
Yeah.
going.
Absolutely.
And we have no idea how far that ripple goes. How many
Hmm.
lives did that impact
Yeah.
just from one person changing one thing for this kid?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I
I
never
have
thought
a
of it
lot of
like that,
parents
but
who, yeah, yeah, no, you made a
mm,
huge impact. I mean, that's how we change the world, one
yeah.
person at a time, one session at a time, one strategy at a time. And does that mean he had all 1 days from then on out? No. But
No.
we didn't get to that five,
Yeah.
you know? And a lot of people, their student will get to five, they'll have the meltdown, and what does the school want to do? Oh, we'll ship them over to that bad kid school.
Yeah. Would suspend them for a couple of days or just ludicrous.
And that's when you just want to look at the person doing it and going, how's that working out for you? Is that an
Mhm.
effective strategy?
Yes,
How's that
exactly.
working?
Yes. There was
It's
there was a little bit of a I put some career limiting moves on those conversations. But it's true. You just think, how is this helpful? This is not helpful. What is your goal here? And a
yeah.
lot of it again is fear. If you're running a school or you're a teacher that sees something that they don't understand and they're afraid of it, and we're not learning about it, that's how we deal with it,
Well,
sadly.
and I understand that, this teacher or the teachers aren't responsible only for that kid. They
Hmm.
have to make sure everybody is safe and everybody
Yes.
is allowed to pay attention and everybody is there to learn. And I don't envy them that task. That is not something that
No.
I would want to do, but I worked with the elderly. And so there are a lot of people that say, well, I wouldn't want to work with elderly people. I love it. I love it still. It's 30 years and I still love it and I always have. But,
Hmm.
you know, I I can't imagine the amount of pressure in today's world
Hmm.
with the school shootings, with all
Yes.
of the
Oh my God.
challenges that I didn't have to deal with when I was growing up or coming to
Yeah.
school, you know.
Yeah.
And I won't get into all of that. That's a different topic for a different day.
Hmm.
But, my point is just that I like you said earlier, I don't think it's that the teachers don't care or don't want to help the
Yes.
students.
Yeah.
But when you're responsible for 30 or 40 students and you have one that's very disruptive, how much time, really honestly,
Hmm.
can we delineate for that task. And
Of
I'm not
course.
saying we should, you know what I'm saying. I'm not
I
saying
know
we should,
exactly what you're saying.
I'm not
There's no
saying
right
don't help
answer there
them.
for sure. Yeah,
You know, I'm saying you can't spend all your time on the one and ignore the 39.
yeah, of
But on
course.
the same side, you can't spend all the time on the 39 and ignore the one.
Exactly. I'm just, yeah, and a
It's
lot of
tough.
this is just there's some things we can do proactively to prevent some of the stuff. There's no golden key, golden answer.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, what would you say as a teacher was your biggest success? What do you feel is most proud of? And if somebody were to say, what is your legacy within the school system? What would you
Honestly,
say?
I think is because it was very clear that I was the voice for the students. And if it meant advocating against a teacher, not against, but coming up to a teacher or administrator or a it didn't matter to me who I was talking to. I wanted this kid to have a voice and they deserve to have a voice. And there was multiple times when a principal had said, you need to stand down. You're just way too passionate about this. You need to relax. So there's a double whammy. You don't tell a woman to relax,
That's right.
period,
Don't tell a fired up
ever,
woman to relax, dear.
ever.
Yeah.
And it astounded me in a way that you want people like me in this building. You want passionate people. You want someone who can think outside the box and have the care and concern and empathy and voice for a student who doesn't have their own voice yet. And so I think my biggest pride in there is that that's who I was known as. That
Yeah.
don't step
Uh-oh.
on her kids. Don't step on her kids. And it just meant I was not going to administration career. I was not, but I loved what I did. It was a situation where there was quite a few nonverbal kids, and so there was some physical aggression. And, it was I don't want to sound like it's a good thing that there was physical aggression, but um, kind of the crisis management was what I loved because you could just zone in on what the actual problem is and extend that care to the kid where they're just petrified. Like, when you're in this type of situation, the kid is petrified. So I think just to have that relationship that the kids knew if I go to Miss P, I'll be okay. And that just made me feel so good. Like they just gave me such a gift. I learn more from them every day than I will ever learn. So it was their gift to me, really.
I say
Yeah.
that about my daughter all the time that she taught me how to see the world in a different lens,
Mm,
in a different way, and open my eyes to this whole other world, this other community that even as a healthcare worker for many years, like I would not have seen into otherwise. And it
yeah.
changed me, not just as a person, but even in my physical therapy job, because it changed the way that I interacted with patients. And so
Mm,
not that I was bad at it, but for example, like you're talking about, if we had a patient who they were having a hard time getting them to comply with their therapy or do the
mm,
work during the therapy session, they would always come to me and they'd be like, "Hey, can you go see this person?
mm,
This is up your alley. You're so good at this." Blah, blah." And, you know, 9 times out of 10, I would be able to find a way to reach that person just by seeing it from because of my
mm.
experience,
Yeah,
and
that's so
get
good.
them to want to do these things that they didn't feel like doing and want to do these
Mm,
things. Well, I'm in pain. I don't want to do it. But learning how to speak to them and, connect with them in a
mm.
way that others couldn't.
Yeah.
And it also helped me too. And this is kind of an interesting correlation that I noticed over the years is that the same kind of approach that I would use for working with neurodivergent people also kind of works some when working with like your dementia patients, your Alzheimer's patients, and things like
Yeah.
that. Because when I went to school, the thing that they were saying to do was, oh, reorient them to time and space. And, you're an 80-year-old wandering around a nursing facility and your mom is not coming to pick you up after school today,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
instead of trying to correct it,
Mm-hmm.
you you join their world, you know. So I
Yeah.
would say things like, well, you know what? This is nurse so and so. I know her really well. I told her to just send your mom right on down to the therapy room. And he'd be like, okay. And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people were like, how did you do
Yeah.
that? I'm like, you know, their perception is reality.
Of
Whether you're
course. Yeah.
talking about someone with dementia or
Hmm.
whether you're talking about a special needs or neurodivergent child, their
Yeah.
perception is their reality.
Hmm.
Whether it's the same as yours or most people's, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's the real world to them.
So
And
true.
until you can see through that lens and
Hmm.
learn how to join their world,
Yeah.
you're not going to do what you want them to do.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, it's such a good point. Yeah. I love it.
And that kind of surprised me. And I don't mean to take away from anybody or anything, or not trying to
Mm.
offend people,
Yeah,
but
I know.
but
I know.
for me, as a person and clinician, and the experiences and places that I worked and have been, um, I think one goes hand in hand with like helped me
Mm.
approach
Yeah.
and learn how to, enter look at the world through other people's eyes.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Let's circle back around, Cheryl, and talk a little bit more about our amazing book because I'm so excited about it. So once again, it was Daring to Belong, Stories of Autism, Courage, and Connection. It
Mhm.
is out there on Amazon, so check it out. So many amazing. There's 11 of us total from
Mhm.
all over the world. We represent 3 countries on 2 continents. This is a global project, and I couldn't be more grateful and more thrilled. So, Cheryl, I really want to thank you for coming on today and just
Thank
sharing
you.
your heart and your gift.
Mm.
You're awesome. I just adore you. And is there anything you'd like to close with before we close out today?
No, you're an amazing leader, and I'm so glad we connected on this. And I will say that with the launch of the book is also a launch of the podcast series for autism on parenting teens. So starting Wednesday for the next 8 Wednesdays, we're going to have an episode on autism just to kind of elevate the awareness.
Well, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Puzzled Parents. We'll see you next time.